The town of Berlin. Country charm at the center of Connecticut.
Okay, we're going to call this town council meeting to order. And if we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
Councilor Angelica Stetson. Here. Mayor Kaczynski.
Here.
Councilor Letty.
Here.
Councilor Payanessa.
Here.
Councilor Russo.
Here.
Councilor Uranaga.
Here.
Councilor Veach. Here. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. So we're at our audience of citizens. If anyone wishes to address us, now would be the time on anything that's on the agenda or anything else regarding town business, please. Yes?
Good evening, everyone. Susan Kwasniewski, 1111 Kensington Road. I'm a frequent flyer at Bicentennial Park, and we have a new neighbor moving in, and we're not getting along too well. And there was something that happened on the Facebook page that wasn't so good, that involved threats of killing pets at Bicentennial. And I brought it to the police's attention. The young lady in the front was one of the people involved in the conversation. And it's alarming that this person is talking about coming to Bicentennial Park with friends who are carrying and who intend to kill any off-leash dog that approaches them.
It wasn't the individual who was at the ordinance committee the other night, was it?
It was his nephew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That individual also posted his address and is inviting people to come and speak to his mother about dog issues. By posting his address, it means people are now coming to that neighborhood to see what's going on.
No.
So he actually is bringing more attention to something he's not happy about.
Right.
And there's going to be people coming who are on his side, and there's going to be people coming who's on the opposite side. So all he did was take something and make it worse. He also talks about, in retaliation to someone's comment, that he plans on using arrows to hunt deer in his backyard, and he'll be bleeding them and gutting them for entertainment purposes for the people in the cul-de-sac to watch.
Wow.
And there's some other profanity and different things in here.
This is on the Facebook page post?
Well, I have it. The nephew's posts were deleted, but I do have the copies of them. And the uncle's posts still stand. Something else aside from that is he also indicates that he likes to party, and he intends to have all of his friends come and park in the cul-de-sac, which would be a nice way of stopping people from going to the park. So that's a future issue. He also plans on having his home remodeled, which probably means that he's going to have contractors parking and blocking the space again. So I don't know how we're going to tackle that issue. And all that means is they do a circle and come back around, but it's perhaps with the new neighbor, the no parking signs need to come down. If he would like to entertain, he should be allowed to have people be able to park on his street in front of his house, and perhaps to accommodate the park goers, the no diagonal parking sign needs to come down so that there's sufficient parking for everyone in the short term. I also created a little sketch of what I've been trying to ask for, a small parking lot inside of the gates, and I'd like to give that to Kate, if that's okay.
Sure.
And that's my concerns for right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll scan the documents and send them out to you tomorrow. But the Facebook is not our page. It's the Berlin Buzz, just so
Okay.
that people know.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Susan.
So just kind of piggybacking off of what Susan had just mentioned, we at the police department, obviously, we get a whole host of
Just your
different...
name, just your name for the record, just so we...
I'm Officer Dylan Breen.
Right, just
those-
on
Officer
audio
Dylan
there.
Breen.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
No, we know who you are, just for the record.
So I'm so used to the name just being stitched on. Most people get it. But ultimately, we do field a wide variety of complaints, and it's not uncommon for us to get called out there very routinely, even several times in a row, for parking-related issues. Lately, because of the comments that have been made in the Facebook group, we've been contacted several times about those remarks, and I myself have personally responded almost every time and have been trying to follow up with the other party involved. Realistically, what it comes down to, and it's not necessarily a police matter when it comes down to the leash law itself and enforcing it, but it is obviously a police matter when it comes to making sure everyone's well informed about the laws and the ordinances of the town and to ensure that we all kind of understand what's happening here. The statute, the way it's written, the ordinance for the town, despite a sign indicating otherwise at the park, clearly says that you can have your dog off leash based on its wording, so long as your dog is within your control or your pet is within your control. Even if they're running around, if they come back to you when called, they are within your control. I've brought a whole host of different copies here if anyone wants to reference the statute itself, as well as the restraint portion of it for having your dog on a leash. Having your dogs off leash on the park is absolutely okay. It should be made clear to the other party who I've been routinely trying to contact, yet he has eluded me every time. It seems like he doesn't want to speak with me about this. He just needs to be made aware of it, and I think both sides, whether you're for the leash law or against the leash law, it just comes down to being educated on the statute itself. And the way the statute reads is dogs are not allowed on playing fields, so that would include any sort of like soccer field, football field, baseball field. Playgrounds, obviously an area dedicated to children and for the youth, or golf courses, for example, Timberland, or tracks or outdoor courts, obviously running tracks like football field, or any like outdoor basketball or tennis courts. And it clearly states dogs are allowed on all other ground areas, provided they are on a leash or otherwise under the control of their owner or keeper, so long as their excrement and any droppings are wrapped, picked up, and disposed of. So I could understand maybe he has a personal disagreement with the no leash law, or maybe the way the leash law is worded, which there really isn't one. But ultimately, it's something that needs to be addressed either in that Facebook group, the Berlin Buzz Facebook group specifically, or just in a general town setting, like right now, which is why I am here. Ultimately, it just comes down to making sure everyone understands what's going on and understands that there is in fact no law that requires a dog to be on a leash in that park. There is existing signage at the park, although it's not in accordance with the town ordinance that says dogs have to be on leashes. With a town ordinance that disagrees with it, I couldn't necessarily say that someone has to have a leash just because there's potentially a dated sign that is at the entrance to the park.
Just so you know, we're working on changing that ordinance.
Are we?
Yes. So what we had so we have an ordinance committee, and we're looking at least right now the portion. We had an ordinance committee meeting, so we're looking at probably certainly in the suburban areas of town. Let's say Bicentennial might be a carve out for something different, but they're going to have to be on a leash or a lead once we pass that ordinance at some point soon. In the rest of town, Bicentennial, it's a separate issue. But
yes, obviously,
so you know that's coming.
Of course. Obviously, because it is a park, it's different territory.
Yes,
but
a little bit different.
Even then, the way it extends to Connecticut general statutes is that it's still unlawful to keep your dog to allow your dog to run amok in the streets or at large upon the streets or any public ways of the town, as it's worded. But ultimately, it just comes down to making sure everyone's on the same page. And realistically, I will speak with the other parties involved eventually at this rate. But ultimately, it's just making sure everyone's well aware of what the statute currently reads to ensure that people are following it and know that it will be enforced in the event someone's dog is off leash and absolutely antagonizing somebody else or is out of the bounds of this town ordinance. As far as some of the other actions he's spoken about doing, it's clearly targeted to antagonize people like yourselves, dog owners, people who are using the parks. I've read it myself several times now, obviously from several different complaints and several different perspectives. But there is a certain aspect where we can address it with him, that if it does pass a certain threshold, that we can address it criminally. But right now, what he's doing is clearly just targeted to antagonize, and it's not criminal in nature. Like I said, though, I will address it with him, and obviously the same way I'm trying to address the leash law and the ordinance with you guys now, I'll try to address it with everyone else should there be another ordinance meeting in the future that I can attend.
Oh, yeah. In fact, we'd love you to attend. I was going to ask you that. Maybe before we make some decisions, since you seem to be the the responding officer on any of these complaints.
It's
Comes with the territory, right? Yeah.
Just lucky, I guess.
Yeah.
it's our job to help. So
Yes. No, we get it.
if I'm around and they're asking for my help, I'm absolutely going to give it. So
Well, we appreciate that. So maybe I can get you to the next ordinance committee if we can look at your schedule and see. We haven't scheduled one yet, but probably in the coming month or so, because we are trying to make some final decisions on the leash law. So it'd be good to hear what you have seen and faced, because we really haven't had that much input. So we'll get you.
of course,
Get you there.
As far as enforcement goes, though, it's ultimately more or less an animal control officer issue. But obviously, when people need help or they have a complaint or a grievance or anything like that, or they just really want advice, typically in the town, we're the ones that gets called. Right. So we're always happy to help, I'm sure, as everyone knows. But ultimately, enforcement will generally fall on animal control officers in this incident.
That's great. We appreciate that update and appreciate you coming tonight.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys. God, wearing all this in here is very hot, though.
Okay. Anyone? So, still audience of citizens? Yes.
Hi, it's Pete DeFazio from Wildermere Road.
Hey, Pete. Welcome.
How you doing?
Good.
I'm surprised that he didn't get booted off the Berlin Buzz, because all you got to do is mention Arby and you're gone out of that one. But anyway, good evening, you guys. Thanks for having us. Tonight you will be presented with rates for the 2020 golf season that satisfy the criteria set forth in the adopted ordinance, whereby projected revenue must meet expenses. For this discussion, I will refer to them as the ordinance rates. We had no choice but to comply to the ordinance. As each year passes, this will become a totally unrealistic feat due to the minimum wage increases, salary increases, et cetera, et cetera. That being said, I have to point out that the Golf Commission in no way endorses these ordinance rates, as we are confident it will have a negative impact. If the ordinance rates are approved, Timberland will no longer be competitive with surrounding golf courses. Golfers today who pay a premium to play have certain expectations: pristine golf conditions, GPS-enabled golf carts, a clubhouse with an atmosphere that is inviting to gather after their round, etc. Although Timberland sits on the most beautiful property of any area golf course, and the course conditions are great considering the limited number of resources, it is in no way worthy of the rates that are proposed. Instead, the Golf Commission has put forth a recommended rate structure that we feel will keep Timberland competitive. Truth be told, it does not meet the requirements of the ordinance as it stands today. As you all know, we are in the middle of discussion regarding the ordinance and its modifications, etc. Please be reminded that Timberland Park is a town asset for the residents to enjoy, along with our out-of-town folks. No other town asset, like Park and Rec, pools, sports fields, library, etc., have any requirements bestowed upon them of meeting expenses with revenues. Timberland is the only one. I would also like to remind everyone that Timberland showed a profit for the calendar year 2019. As a golf commission, we appreciate the fact that the council has put faith in us for a reason. And at the last ordinance meeting, the council had asked us to present options in the coming months as to how we could possibly cut costs and increase efficiency. Let us do that for you. But in the meantime, I am asking you to approve our recommended rates, which we feel has the best opportunity for the most revenue for the coming golf season. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
My name is Jim Norton, 36 Steepleview Drive, Berlin, Connecticut. To follow up on Peter's comments, I have the voted on and approved recommended rates from the commission. Peter's words are very true that we are getting to the point of pricing ourselves out of the market. And it'll be the law of diminishing returns, because what we see happening is people will go to other courses, even private courses that are now offering rates cheaper than Timberland just to play. You know, it is a town asset, no different than any other park. The pools, the libraries, everything. We have to look at it in that respect. I think we've done a great job. The town council, I thank you all for entrusting us to look up, what's best for the town and what's best for the Timberland Golf Course. We have taken that under advisement the past couple of years. We are looking at things going forward for the next 5 years. I've projected out costs going for the next 5 years, and I'll present those to the town council one of the next sessions that after we meet, along with a couple options that we feel we need to address. And it's actually the town is going to have to make a decision. We're going to be at a crossroads very soon, and I think this is after next year or this year, this is where we're going to be. We'll be back here again, but we need to look at things long term, and that's the only way to look at this thing. Where we're going to go long term, not only with the golf course itself, but where we're going to go with the facility. And I know there's an RFP that's being discussed at this point in time. I've offered my services to assist with that, but these are things that need to be addressed. What was addressed 50 years ago is not relevant today. Things changed, and we need to change with the times also. Thank you. And I will leave this with Kate.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Sorry.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else for the,
Good evening, Marcella Vanook, 988 High Road. I just wanted to say two things. One, at the ordinance committee meeting last week, before the committee meeting when we were downstairs in the other room and it was moved, that gentleman came up to us and I felt threatened. He was very angry. He was upset. He was yelling at us, and I said to Sue and to Mary Catherine to not engage and just to move away from him. He was saying things like he was going to punt dogs with his feet and hurt them. He was just very threatening. So we backed off, and then he left with his daughter, and they came back in the room and calmed down. And then later upstairs, we were in separate areas, so he kind of calmed down after that. The other thing I wanted to talk about again is bicentennial, and that I do support having dogs on leashes in the town. I believe that in public areas, on streets, that dogs should be on leashes, and I agree with that policy. But I also feel that at bicentennial, there should be an area not fenced, not a leash, a fenced area with mulch for dogs, but an open space that dogs can be unleashed, because I really firmly believe that dogs need to run. They need a space. And the original intent for bicentennial was to be a place, a park for the people. And from what I understand, that horses, it was something written in the bylaws that it's an open space for horses to be allowed. So I could imagine that horses could be allowed to run freely there or to be ridden there, and not dogs. I think also, too, that the parking issue is a separate issue from the ordinances about leashes, and I think it should remain separate. And that's it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Karen Pagliaro, 221 Still Meadow Lane. I'm here for two topics. The first is the Berlin V&A. I went to the Finance Board last month, and it was discussed, and I did have some comments. I'm here as a taxpayer, though, today, because in 2 years now, we have not seen the census go up. And without the census going up, they're never going to make money, including now, especially with PDGM, which is the new Medicare payer system. In fact, 30% of agencies across Connecticut are expected to close because of the new payer method. So we need to do better, and I think specifically we need to see the administrator do better. Yes, they've made some changes that have decreased some of the hole that they have in their budget. However, this year they're making less than they did last year. So it hasn't helped. We asked them to get a marketer. They didn't want it because they didn't have enough staff. When we asked about productivity, their productivity is 5 visits per nurse. Statewide productivity is 8 visits per nurse. Come on. Bringing more patients on every day means you bring in more money. Something has to be done because as a taxpayer, I am not want to pay somebody else's medical bills. It's just not fair. So that's about the V&A. The next thing I want to speak about, and I just saw Kristen come in, so I'm really thrilled. So politics aside, for a charitable effort. And in November, we challenged the Republican Party to raise funds, and $800 was raised for, was it the food pantry? Yeah. And then it comes December, and I read something else. Berlin seeks economic lift with holiday decorations. Sounds really cool, right? Except at the end, I have to take my glasses off to read it, it says people may vote online, there's a survey monkey, and the top 5 vote getters, the ultimate winner would be chosen by the mayor, planning and zoning chairman, Joan Veely, and economic development commissioner, Dave Sear. So what do we have? We have 3 Republicans and not a single Democrat. So I really find if you're going to do something that benefits the town, the very least you can do is do it in a bipartisan manner, just like Kristen did, instead of just Republicans. So perhaps you need to reflect on that.
Okay, anyone else wishes to address the council? Hearing none, we will.
Oh, no, Kristen.
Oh, one more? Okay.
Hey guys, Kristen Campanelli, 30 Sawmill Drive, Berlin. I know that you guys have a police commissioner appointment on your agenda for tonight. I know that we've talked about it. Mark, you and I talked about it. I've talked with you guys about the Democrats about this. So I'm just really excited for this to move forward smoothly and for everybody to be on board and for there, not to be any partisan fighting as we discussed earlier. So I thank you all for your work and look forward to that vote. All right, thanks guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience wishes to speak?
May I go again?
Huh?
May I come again?
What? Just 1 minute, if you could, Sue, just real quick. 'Cause we gotta move on here.
With regards to the small sketch I made for potential parking for Bicentennial Park.
Just identify yourself.
Susan Kwasniewski, 1111 Kensington Road. This parking debate's been going on for about 40 years now. And what I'm proposing is a small gravel road, a little bit of trees cleared out, and more gravel, and opening up the gate. And I guess my question is the worst thing that could happen if you create that is we might have a resolution, and the worst thing that could happen is you find out it's the worst possible thing we ever did. You close the gate, the trees grow back, and we have the solution that we know that this isn't ever going to work. And it's 44 years and it's done, and we don't have to do this now with the next generation of people. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if we have no other comments, we'll go ahead and close the audience of citizens and move on to our meeting agenda, starting with our consent agenda, which has 7 different topics. Donations to the library, the chief of police applying for a couple grants, donations to the police department, waiver and a green fee waiver, and donations for some golf. So we've all had this agenda. We've read it. Counselors, will take a motion.
Sure, I'll make a motion to accept the items on the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Thank you very much. Any other concerns or questions? Hearing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Thank you. So now we're on to our public hearing. So go ahead and call the public hearing to order at 7:25. And the purpose of the public hearing, we're going to hold the Berlin Town Council will hold a public hearing tonight, February 4th, to consider the sale of 2 portions of town land totaling approximately 3,596 square feet adjacent to bridge number 06122 on Wildermere Road over Belcher Brook in accordance with Section 7-163E of the Connecticut General Statutes. And it's a public hearing, so at this meeting, interested persons may be heard and written communications may be received at this time. And it was published in the New Britain Herald, January 24th and January 31st. So, we are in the public hearing now, and we can take public comments. We have any? Yes?
Joe Bajorski, 80 Butternut Lane. I rise to speak in favor of the sale of the properties. I think the town should take advantage of opportunities to divest itself of surplus land that it's no longer using. I think this was done for remediation along that bridge, so since that property is no longer going to be used, it would be a good thing to sell and raise some funds.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anything about this? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public comments and we'll go to town council comments. Any comments from the council?
Oh, good.
Hearing none, okay, we'll close our comments here, and at 7:26, we will close the public hearing. Thank you. And we'll move on, we'll address that later in the agenda. So, new business.
New business agenda item number 1.
Yes.
It's to move the nomination of a said elector to complete the unexpired term as police commissioner of the town of Berlin.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we have an opening, and we would go ahead and take a nomination to fill the term.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Melissa Uranaga.
Okay, thank you very much.
Second.
Second on that. Thank you, Peter. Any other nominations? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the nominations, and we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain.
Abstention?
I'm also abstaining.
Abstentions, thank you very much. Okay, all those in favor? Well, we all said aye, so 2 abstentions, so motion carries. All right. Yep.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Agenda item number 2.
Sure she wants to,
Yeah.
you know what she got herself involved in?
Maybe.
It's all right. It's
Congratulations.
okay. All right, number 2.
It's a request from the Berlin Housing Authority to apply for a $1.5 million CDBG grant. And Mr. Joe Janowski, you want to provide some background and talk about this?
Members of the council, good evening.
Joe.
Joe Bajorski, 80 Butternut Lane, Chairman of the Berlin Housing Authority. I'd like to also recognize Jim McDermott, one of our commissioners who's here tonight, and Barbara Gombatz in the back row there from the Commission of Aging, who's also here tonight. I stand ready to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, so we all know we've been working on this for a very long time, and I know, we've trying our best and have tried to move this forward as fast as possible, and unfortunately, we've had many issues in our way.
Yes.
We're finally, perhaps seeing a way forward, which is phenomenal for the people of Berlin, and certainly for senior housing project that we approved 7 years ago in planning and zoning. So.
Yeah, roughly 7 years ago.
So, and we had some discussions recently, Joe, and if you can just really quickly bring us up to speed where we're at, and just so we know, what we're.
On this agenda item or on? Okay.
Well, I mean, it could be the thumbnail on the whole thing. Just,
Okay.
just brief. I mean, I don't want to. God, I know we could go on for hours, but we won't.
We
don't wanna
can.
do that.
What I'd like to do, because I know some counselors here have probably not seen the actual renderings. So, I'll pass this along. These are the proposed. I'll speak to the microphone. These are the proposed renderings of the buildings, including layouts, and there's there's various different pages on that. I'd be more than happy to leave them here tonight so you can look at them after the meeting. It'll probably be more convenient. I was under the impression we were going to discuss this in executive session a little bit more in depth, but I realize we're not. So, like I said, I can leave that here for the counselors to peruse. We're basically proposing 50 units of elderly housing, affordable, on the former Knights of Columbus property. And that property is basically an 8-acre site, 4.5 roughly, of which we are using for the construction. The rest is either wetlands or ridge. So basically, we're maximizing the available space. We staying in compliance with the zoning regulations in the community. We are looking to get 50 units on there, and that will basically maximize the amount of affordable housing on that site to stay in accordance with zoning. What we're proposing here, the total cost of the project is going to be $18 million. We've identified about $13 million that we can get to fund it. We have a $5 million gap, which we're going to address in the next item on the agenda. But part of this process is also to obtain a community development block grant from the state of Connecticut in the amount of $1.5 million to be applied towards site prep and infrastructure costs on that site. And that would include remediation and tear down of the existing Knights of Columbus facility on that property. So there would be no cost to the town. The town would be the recipient of the monies, and the Housing Authority would act as a subrecipient. I believe you have a copy of the subrecipient agreement there. We went out through the town, we paid for it, but the town posted a, notice for bids to consultants on the project. Only one consultant responded back, and you have that information in front of you, Peter Testa. He's done work with the town before. Actually, he's been successful in bringing about $4 million to the Housing Authority in the past for improvements and upgrades to the properties for the Housing Authority. Tonight, you'll be voting on appointing him as the contractor on the site. Again, his services will be paid for through the grant, so there's no cost to the town. It's more of a logistical function at this point. He would be in charge of applying for the grant, administering the grant, and making sure we stay in compliance with all the terms of the grant. And he would be, acting in that capacity. Okay. I hope that answers any questions on that item.
Yeah, for this one, and so this one, just again for the benefit of some of the counselors that may not have the history, certainly for our two new counselors. Obviously, this is step one.
Correct.
I mean, for some money for preparing to move forward, but
Yes.
and what's the just a few lines on what's the next step?
So the next step is hopefully once item number 2 is addressed on my list of items to address, we will schedule a meeting with the Department of Housing to discuss this process. We've identified some additional monies to close the gap from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Boston. They have an affordable housing program that they're restarting, so we're going to pursue those funds. It will allow us to leverage some additional dollars towards the construction. So we feel fairly confident they'll be able to close that gap, and that allowed us to drop that item down to $2 million with respect to the town. Additionally, there's other programs that are coming online at some point that we'll be able to take advantage of. So, what I'm looking for from the town on the second item is basically a letter of intent. It doesn't obligate the town to anything at this point in time. It just shows an intent that we can go to the community, or to the Department of Housing, and explain to them that the town's behind this project, and that we've applied for a CDBG. We're going to apply for the 4% tax credits. We're going to apply for the Federal Home Loan Bank and kind of lay everything out for them, and hopefully get some additional monies towards the project. And we'll do that, once approved with the letter of intent, and I have an executed copy. We'll schedule that meeting post haste.
All right, that's the next item, right?
Yes,
This is so this one.
I think it's item number 3 on the agenda.
Yes, it's the next one. Okay, so all right, so while Joe's here, my fellow counselors, do you have questions for him? Well, we have him before us. Some of you that may not be as familiar with what we've been going through the last 7 years.
I have a quick question. So the
Yes,
federal
yes.
monies that you're looking for, those are grants as well that you're looking to make applications?
Those would be loans through the Federal Home Loan
Are
Bank.
there
It's a
any
low-interest loan.
grants that perhaps are available?
Not at this point in time. We will pursue grants, but at this point in time, we're looking for a combination of tax credit financing and, the Federal Home Loan Bank and basically the leverage from the town. There was going to be some debt service in there as well, but that's covered by the rental income on the property. Now, additionally, moving forward, if, it becomes available, we'll request a project voucher on the property from HUD. But again, that's still questionable at this point in time. There's some talk about, possibly down the road, project vouchers becoming available once again. So we'll see. We'll take advantage of that if it becomes available.
Anyone else? Questions? Concerns? Nothing?
Well,
Yes.
I understand no other town has put money into a project like this.
Oh, that's not necessarily 100% accurate. So no town has loaned money, but other towns have undertaken, say like the city of Hartford has undertaken the construction of a parking garage to facilitate the development of a affordable housing project. Other towns have done infrastructure improvements, road improvements, things like that. So monies have been paid, but nobody's ever really extended a loan that we could find at this point in time.
There's been some money expended on this project already. Is that included in the 15 million, or is that
That's included in that.
included in that? It just, from what I've read, and I'm no expert on housing such as yourself, but the construction costs of these units are quite a bit higher than most of the other units in the state.
They are.
What makes Berlin so expensive to build, and is there anything we could alter to reduce that cost?
Well, again, we are actively going to look at that when it comes time to go out to bid. Right now, we're basing our estimates on, a contractor that's estimating those amounts. He's not going to be the contractor that's going to be doing the work. We're also looking at design elements that the CHFA has put forward that we have to stay in compliance with. I forwarded that to the town manager and the mayor, so I believe they have copies of that. I don't know if they forwarded it on to anybody. So as this thing moves forward and we start going out to bid and start getting harder numbers, it's possible that cost will come down, or the design, as we get closer to 100% drawings, we might be able to adjust the design and get some savings in those areas.
Joe, to clarify, they're $369K per unit, and it was $230 per square foot?
You're referencing, I don't have the documents here in front of me that you're referencing, but if it's on the proposed budget that you have, then yeah, that's basically what we're looking at. Again, you'll see the design, it's, fits the neighborhood, it's not a large project. There are some, design standards that go into that. So things that I might do or a private contractor might do to design that building, the state that I might not do. The state mandates that we do. So there's certain environmental laws that go in there. The prevailing wage law, that's close to $2 million of cost on that whole project. If we didn't have the prevailing wage law, we could knock $2 million off the top. So, it's one of these situations where we're staying in compliance with state law, and it's going to generate some additional costs that, we may or may not have control over.
Anyone else? Okay, so we're just obviously that we got into agenda item 3, which we can keep discussing as we get there. So we're on agenda item 2, so we'll go ahead and take a motion on number 2.
Sure. I move that the town of Berlin apply for the $1.5 million from the Community Development Block Grant, and if approved, make the Berlin Housing Authority the subrecipient of those grant monies, and that Peters Testa of A&E Services Group, LLC of Wolcott, Connecticut, be awarded the contract as the consultant to apply for the funds.
Thank you. A second on that?
Second it.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 3.
And item number 3, this is presented to you as a discussion item for the town of Berlin Housing Authority to enter a letter of intent to award $2 million to be used to finance the construction of 50 units of affordable senior housing.
Okay. So, this has been out here already. It's been out here a few times. I know it's going to the Board of Finance. I think the figure's gone, up and down. I find it difficult that we need to come up with the $2 million down the road. I'm not sure about the letter of intent. No one, I'd say all of us here on the council are certainly desperate to get this project moving, no question about it. Some of us have been working on it for a very long time, yourself, Joe, and others on the council, and many other boards and commissions and consultants, and everybody in town has been trying to get this moving. But in looking at, some of the information we've gotten, that most towns, no towns really, from what even I think your consultant might have said, that have kicked in a 40-year interest-free loan.
Not alone, correct, but there's been other money.
Yeah. Now, of course, our contribution is the land, obviously, is
Correct.
Is being given. So I'm hesitant to, myself personally, I'm just speaking for me, the council, hopefully they all have their opinions, to commit to $2 million now, and I'll ask for our legal advice too, counselor, town attorney, what, letter of intent, to get the process going, but I know the Board of Finance has some concerns as well, and just down the road, don't want to sign a letter of intent, and then we're left with making good on it. If we want to or don't have to, we can lower the cost of the project along the way. I just don't, we sign a letter of intent, and, I think we've talked about the cost of the project. We're concerned the costs are very high, square footage cost, higher than many that have been built in Connecticut. And if we lower those square footage costs, we certainly don't need the town commitment of the $2 million. What say you, counselor?
There's the legal opinion, and then there's the practical aspect of it. The legal opinion, I edited the letter of intent.
Okay.
Letter of intent doesn't bind or obligate the town to loan any money.
Okay.
However, from a practical perspective, if the council, or at least the majority of the council, is not in favor, under any circumstances, of loaning or giving $2 million or something close to that to the housing authority, I think that now is the time to have that discussion. Doesn't make a lot of sense to sign a letter of intent and have the housing authority continue to go down this path and utilize resources and incur expenses if at the end of the day the project can't get done without that loan and the council's not of a mind to make the loan. So from a legal perspective, the letter of intent doesn't bind you, doesn't obligate you. There's all kinds of exculpatory provisions in there to protect you. But unless you're just not ready to make that decision and you want to continue to go down the path, from a practical perspective, I think it makes sense if you have a majority of you have an opinion not to do this, now would be the time to have that conversation.
So the process, obviously we voted to, go forward with the grant, obviously. If we don't give you this, let's say we don't sign the letter of intent, you still can go forward, obviously. There's a gap. We understand there's a gap.
Correct. It's just a matter of closing the gap. So if we can close the gap, it allows us to move forward in this project on a faster time frame versus without the letter of intent. One of the purposes of the letter of intent is to show support from the town. So when we go in front of DOH, we can show them that the town's interested versus, copies of minutes or things like that or statements in the paper about it. It shows the town really is interested in pursuing this forward. The state of Connecticut right now is looking at, seeing if municipalities will up their game with respect to affordable housing. So they're going to tie other funds that the town's currently receiving to its support for the affordable housing process. As the council has stated, this current draft of the letter of intent has numerous performance aspects that we have to meet, that we'd have to meet regardless if we wanted to move forward on this project. So I think this letter of intent, while not obligating the town to funding the project, would allow us to leverage it towards getting monies from the state of Connecticut, and that's an important tool. Absent that tool, it's going to take a little bit of more heavy lifting on my part with other parties within the state government to get some monies devoted to this project.
Have you ever looked at, and we've had some discussions recently, like let's say we got a private developer to step in and at least help us with the project or build the project or fund it through Webster Bank or, People's Bank or whatever lending institution that may make some of these?
So this comes down to an operating statement, and we generate a certain amount of revenue. And again, there's certain regulatory requirements that we have to spend the money in a certain way in order to get assistance from the Department of Housing. So there's only so much room for debt service in that project. The 4% tax credits have, an investment vehicle to them. Normally, Northeast Utilities acquires those, and, the money's used to, fund the project, and then it's paid back through, through the process of tax credits. There's also going to be some private financing involved in that. There's a bunch of different tranches of money coming into this project. It's going to go out to bid in terms of, contractors and the like doing it. They're still going to be responsible to prevailing wage. They're still going to be responsible to the environmental regulations, the energy efficiency regulations, and the other things that are in that, process. HUD and DOH are going to be on this, so it's, there's not a lot of wiggle room on our end as to, cutting corners here or there. They're going to be signing off on this project and the changes on the project. So, like I said, there's possibilities out there for, partnerships, but that's, there's not a lot of wiggle room in terms of the pro forma. Otherwise, the property becomes non-affordable. If we went with a market rate property, then that'd be a whole different animal.
Understand the gap there,
Yeah.
with the rents being
Correct.
low. I kind of agree with Corporation Counsel, and but I just, I'm afraid to approve that, and then we're gonna, let's say we back out later, if the town doesn't want to make that commitment. We all have a commitment to senior housing. Nobody more than all of us here. Nobody more than me. 7 years I approved this on planning and zoning. We're still waiting for it, and it's through no fault of anybody here. There's been many different changes in the funding from the state, from the last governor. There's been easements we found on the property. The list goes on and on. It's quite unbelievable that it's taken this long to even get here.
Yes.
I never would have believed it if someone said that, and we're still not there.
We're still not there.
No, so that's very, very frustrating, and we know we have a huge need in town for this, but.
No one's more frustrated than yourself.
Well, yes, no, I know, and we've
put a significant amount of time.
Yes, you have. No,
into
I know
this
that.
project, and like I said, if it gets to a point, we either fund this or we don't fund it.
Yeah.
I mean,
But go ahead, Charlie.
If there's a savings, if it went out to bid and it came in 10% lower than anticipated, would that savings be spread across all the funding? How is it structured? Or
it would be spread across all the funding.
So
all the
we
funding is
get-
predicated on the cost of the project.
So
this is my.
the feds aren't guaranteeing 10 million; they're guaranteeing 66% of the cost. How's it worded like that, or is it?
It's a 4% tax credit, so it's based on the cost of the construction of the project.
What I'm getting
There's
at
other
is
private financing that goes into place.
Is there any way we could find or hope to find the savings to shave this 2 million shortfall off the top?
As I've stated before, it is my goal to get the town out of this project in its entirety. If I can come up with another $2 million, I will come up with another $2 million, and you guys don't have to be involved at all. If I can come up with $1 million and your contribution is $1 million, then that's what it turns out to be. In terms of cost cutting, that I can only tell you we're at 50% documents right now. So if we won't know the actual cost savings until we get closer to the 100% drawings. We have the bids come in, and we see where we're at in that, from that standpoint.
We need this project. I mean, the seniors are a growing population, and it's way overdue. I could support this letter of intent, but I would have trouble supporting the bond at the time if I wasn't assured that every effort and every stone was turned to find the money to keep us out of it.
And I will assure you that that's going to take place. Like I stated before, we don't need to fund this until July of 2022, so we have 2 years to get additional funding. If I can get the rest of the project moving, then we can fund, find that $2 million.
I don't have any problem with the letter of intent, simply because it's not contractual. But if it allows us to, if it allows us some progression with this, whether it comes to us being able to swallow this more, financially, if we find some other methods in which we can close, the $2 million eventual obligation to the town, or, if we realize, no, we don't want to do it, at least it's progressing things.
Correct.
And it's not contractual, so I don't have a problem with signing the letter of intent. I think that, and like, you said, Mark, this is something that's been ongoing. We want to do this for our seniors desperately.
No one more so than me.
I know, I know.
'Cause I would like to retire at some point, but
Wouldn't we all?
yes. And
To the affordable project, so.
Exactly.
You get on the waiting list yet?
well, hopefully we can get it. We can get it built, and then we'll discuss the waiting lists. It will be opened up to the public for waiting for applications and the like. Like I said, this will give me the opportunity to leverage. The letter of intent will give me the opportunity to leverage the town's commitment and shake some more money out of the trees that are around the Fed and state.
There's got to be there's got to be more Fed money that's available for this.
Yes, and it's
I know where you're coming from in terms of moving forward.
We saw a couple of projects, like I mentioned to you last August, the HUD 202 program. We thought that was a great program for us until we actually saw what was in the HUD 202 program and the requirements of the HUD 202 program. So that wouldn't have fit the community. Like I said, the letter of intent is nothing more than just a commitment from the town that we can demonstrate to the Department of Housing. There are numerous performance aspects in that letter of intent that we'd have to meet regardless of whether we were going with the letter of intent or funding it ourselves. So there's nothing we're doing in that letter of intent that we wouldn't do anyways. And like I said, my goal is to get this project built and, reduce the expense to the town. We have 2 years to, if everything goes according to plan, we have 2 years from July to find $2 million.
I just wonder if we could, sooner than later, I mean, 2 years from now, I think we all know costs are going to go up no matter what. So whatever costs we find might be eaten up by inflation and whatever else goes up, but.
It's very possible.
It's not understandable, but I just wonder if we could make a much harder effort up front right now, perhaps with different options.
As soon as I have the letter of intent, I will schedule a meeting with Department of Housing, and then,
Okay.
The legislature is coming into session shortly.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
things change up in Hartford all the time on that level.
Right.
So, I can't promise this session, but, we will be up there.
Okay.
I have one
yes.
quick question. I know that
yes.
this is, the square footage, the cost to do this project that we're looking at is substantially more than the average cost per square foot on a similar type project, correct? What exactly is the difference, roughly?
I have not compared the other projects. I know some of the ones I've referenced, we're talking years ago when they were built, so there's some time gaps between these projects,
and stuff like
materials,
that,
yeah,
right.
stuff like that. So we hired a firm to come in and analyze the drawings we have to date, and they came up with a number. And this is not the architect's number, because the architect's number was higher. So that's why we hired the firm to come in and kind of crunch the numbers a little bit more and come up with realistic pricing based on current market conditions. And that's when he came up with the $18 million total, project. So, like I said, that includes reserve funds, that includes, what do you call it, overages, things like that. So there, if you look at the pro forma budget that I supplied you, you'll see there's various different areas in there where there's monies set aside for certain things that normally wouldn't be part of a construction project. And you're looking at, again, there's mathematical calculations that go into this. So the reserve is calculated based on the entirety of the project. So if your project is at 18 million, your reserve is going to be X, and, I believe it's 900,000 or $1 million roughly for the reserve. So,
Maybe we can even be talking about $1 million issue as opposed to a $2 million
correct.
issue.
And some of those costs are going to be there regardless of whether it's a private developer that builds them or it's the housing authority. It's per the CHFA guidelines as to how they operate it.
Let's just pull the trigger here.
Okay. So, I mean, my opinion is maybe we should vote on it, hearing from the counselors. I just don't want to commit the town to a 40-year no-interest loan at this point, and I know we're not committing to that, thank goodness. But I think
in real estate, everything's negotiable.
Yes, I know. Yes, and I think aggressively, we really need to look at this project from what I've heard from other consultants and people in the building industry to lower these costs. Soon, before we go down the road 2 years from now, and I don't think things will be different, but.
And again, CHFA and DOH are going to have a role with that as well, because they supervise these projects. So our discussions are going to be with their technical people, and they're going to.
And would you be adverse to, if we hook up with, let's say we, I don't know, let's see, maybe we decide in the coming weeks or few months to hook up with a private builder and try and work something like that?
I'm not adverse to that.
Okay.
The problem is staying within the confines of federal and state law when it comes to that process. I don't want to.
No, we don't want to violate federal or state law. That's not.
Correct.
That's not what we're about.
Danbury's nice. It's not that
need
nice.
But so I mean, just options that we should seriously consider that may.
I am open to any kind of suggestions that come my way. Like I said, I've more than entertained all kinds of suggestions and comments from across the spectrum. The point remains that at the end of the day, if we want to move forward with building and maintaining this project, we need to stay in compliance with the guidelines put forth by CHFA. And I don't have a lot of wiggle room when it comes to that. So, and neither will a private developer. Again, if we exceed those regulations, it becomes a market unit development and doesn't really help anybody. And that's where we're at.
All right.
Mayor?
Yes.
If you decide that you'd like to take this up tonight,
Yes.
it's on the agenda as a discussion
Okay.
item, so it would have to be added to the agenda
Okay.
by a 2/3 vote approving adding it to the agenda.
Well, we can put it on next week's
You
agenda.
can put it on for the next meeting. I'll be happy to do that.
Why don't we put it on for the next week's agenda? Just give us a couple weeks to digest, and that's not. I mean, you're moving forward with the other one we voted on.
Yeah.
And I don't.
No, 2 weeks is not a big deal.
2 weeks
Like I
is
said,
not going to.
And you guys have a lot of information. We forwarded all the pro forma
Yes,
budget documents
we have
and
it all.
everything. So,
Can you leave those for us to review?
yeah, I'll leave those here tonight for you to
Because we
review.
have certainly many of us, certainly two new counselors, really not familiar with.
That's
a lot
why I
of
brought
the-
those in,
Yeah.
based on our discussions with the town manager. I realized that, people haven't been around to see this project from the
If
get-go.
it's
Yes.
okay with Joe, if I can take it,
Yes.
then I'll talk to Public Works Engineering, and we can reduce this down like you see other.
Oh, yeah, that'd be
items
great. That'd be great. Yeah.
down,
Yeah.
And I can email it out to everybody.
Yes, yeah,
All right,
please.
and let's do that, okay?
I think
Okay.
the town manager already has that version,
We can,
Yeah.
all right if I take that for a little?
No, take it.
Okay.
Nope. You know where my office is, so you can drop it off.
You know where mine is.
Yes, I can pick it up.
Find me. Thanks.
I have a question before we end this for Jeff, really. I was sitting here thinking how I was going to read a motion because I thought that's what we were going to do, but I don't have a problem waiting.
You're off the hook now.
Yeah, but, the motion doesn't say anything about, that the town doesn't have a liability for the $2 million. I didn't know if that language had to be in there or not.
It's in the letter of intent.
It's in the letter of intent, so that's fine.
Different times.
Okay, that's all I wanted to make sure.
We can make sure that if you approve it at your
it's at the end.
council agenda, that we put the letter of intent as part of the minutes.
Sure.
All right,
Okay.
so that we try hard to do anything along those lines.
So let's just say next meeting, we vote for that letter of intent.
Yes.
So what's the timeline after that?
We schedule a meeting with DOH, and we go have a discussion with them. Maria DeMarco walked in. She is our project manager on
yeah.
this, so
How you doing?
she's well versed in CHFA and DOH and the way they operate. So, but basically, we'd reach out to DOH once I have the letter, schedule a meeting. We'd go up and brief DOH on the project, show them the budget documents, the design work, all the other stuff, and have a long-ranging discussion with them as to, they're aware of the project, but this would be an in-depth analysis of the project, our numbers, and then we'd come out with some additional monies, hopefully.
Generally, how quick is DOH to respond to your request for a meeting?
It's a state agency, so it takes.
What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say?
They've been receptive, but it's been a couple weeks. It's not like I can pick up the phone and be there the next day.
Right, but it's not like, we're waiting 2 months for.
No.
Okay.
No, they've been very receptive. We've met with the commissioner already. She's aware of the project. Speaker of the House, Sarah Simowitz, has assisted in that venue. But again, it's a matter of getting agenda or dates on the calendar that everybody's available for. So it's not a rapid process, but it does get done.
Okay. Any other questions, Will? No. Joe's on the hot seat? No? Okay, so we will see you on February 18th.
All right, thank you very much. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to email me or call me, and I will be more than glad to find the information for you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay.
Agenda item number 4. This is a request to waive the bid requirements for Northeast Labs to perform additional testing for compliance with Connecticut Department of Health requirements. Mike Ahern is here to give you some background. It's an existing vendor. We had a $9,800 amount budgeted for that, and it's anticipated that additional testing will go over the budgeted amount.
Correct, yeah. The original amount was about $9,800, and because of some unanticipated testing and additional testing, water control estimates it'll be about $15,000 before the end of the fiscal year. And just why we're using Northeast, they're in town. The guys can drop the samples right off there. Their state's certified. The nearest certified lab besides them is in New Haven. So this just makes sense to me. Hopefully you agree.
Okay. Any questions for Mike? Hearing none, we'll take a motion.
Okay, move to waive the bidding requirements for Northeast Laboratories to allow for payments up to $15,000 so that the Berlin Water Control Commission remains in compliance with water quality tests established by the Connecticut Department of Health, as this is in the best interest of the town.
Second on that?
Second.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 5.
Item number 5 is the reason we had the town meeting today.
Yes.
Finally, this is to move to complete the final town acceptance of the DOT transportation, DOT's offer for $1,800 for the sale of the land, 3,596 square feet.
Okay. We'll have take a motion on this.
Okay, I move to complete the final town acceptance of the Connecticut Department of Transportation's offer of $1,800 for 2 portions of land totaling approximately 3,596 square feet adjacent to bridge number 06122 on Wildermere Road, and authorize the town manager in coordination with Corporation Counsel to effectuate the transfer of the subject land to the state.
Thank you. Second on that?
Second.
Hey, we've heard obviously we had the public hearing, and if there's any other comments or questions, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Item
6.
Number 6 is a bid waiver, Coleman Farms leaf composting. This again is anticipated that because of the tonnage going up, that the dollar amount will go even higher, and we're asking for a bid waiver. Do you add anything, Mike?
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's $11 a ton. It's been unchanged since 2004. They're a state-certified composting facility that's relatively local in Middletown, Connecticut. So it's just been going up. We actually had a place to put chips at Sage Park, but it got kind of out of hand, so that stopped. So that's why we're a little bit over every year. This is the second year in a row, I think, we're asking for this.
Okay. Go ahead and take a motion.
Sure. I move to authorize the town manager to waive the sealed bid requirement in contracting with Coleman Farms of Middletown, Connecticut to provide for the disposal of leaves and grass clippings in an amount not to exceed $15,000, as this is in the best interest of the town.
I second.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 7.
Item number 7, you probably recall this, Glen Street Bridge was on the DOT list as in critical shape, and we have to do something to fix it. So we went through a bid process, and this is to accept the lowest bidder to complete the engineering work.
Right. Yeah, we had eight firms. The bid tabulation in your packet shows the 8 firms. The lowest bid, actually, they didn't respond to 2 addenda, and they used the wrong proposal form. So unfortunately, they were not eligible to actually be awarded this contract. So they were only about $2,000 below the 84.5 from AI Engineers. So, and
Well, maybe that's a good thing, because if they couldn't get the form right, maybe they couldn't get the bridge repair right.
yeah,
so
there
maybe
was a
that's
discussion
good thing.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay. Sorry about that.
it was
but
one of those things. I think it just slipped through the cracks on their end. So.
I'm sure it did. Just some humor. All right. So, okay. So we'll go ahead and take a motion.
Okay, I move to authorize the town manager to enter into a contract agreement, number 2020-09, with AI Engineers of Inc. of Middletown, Connecticut, as the lowest responsive bidder for bridge engineering services for the Glen Street Bridge, number 06955, for the amount of $84,500, and to authorize the town manager to increase the contract value through change orders to an amount not to exceed $97,200.
Thank you. Second on that?
Second it.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Hearing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Item number 8, this is a replacement of a police vehicle which was involved in an accident in Berlin Turnpike. And we have some insurance coverage for that, but obviously it's not, sadly, not covering the whole amount. And Mr. Simon's here. If you have any questions for him?
No, no, we were helping out, I think, Meriden on something, and somebody just drove through. The police,
Forgot to hit the gas.
yeah,
Brake pedal.
yeah, hit the gas instead of the brake. Unfortunate accident. No one
Everybody's
got
okay?
No one got hurt. Yeah, nobody got hurt. So that's the main thing. So, any other questions from anyone? No. Yep. All right. So we'll take a motion.
Okay, move to purchase one 2020 Ford SUV Interceptor from MHQ, utilizing Connecticut DAS contract number 12PSX0194 for an amount not to exceed $34,341.40.
Thank you. Second on it. Thank you very much. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank
Second
you.
part of that. There's
Oh,
another
I'm
part.
sorry. Oh, did I miss it? Oh,
Yep.
What did I miss?
I moved to contract MHQ for the transfer of equipment and purchase of new equipment for an amount not to exceed $9,825.
Second.
Thank you. All is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 9.
Number 9, this has to do with the wash bay, which was assigned to the Public Building Commission, and it's about securing the funding for that, which is already available, but we have to go through a process, and I'm sure Kevin is going to tell you how you're going to tap the Brown premium to finance this.
Okay.
Come on in, Kevin.
Well, about a month ago, you approved some money so that the Public Building Commission could go out and design the wash bay. Last June, when the town issued bonds, we received premium from those. So basically, we were given more money than what we had originally sought in the marketplace. And so that money can only be used for really two purposes. One, to fund an existing bond ordinance, or to offset debt service payments, so you could reduce interest in the future. This proposal would ask for a bond ordinance to be approved so that we could apply some of that money. I don't expect that it's going to be the full amount of the money, but some of that money to fund the wash bay so that there would be no additional bonding or additional taxes to build the wash bay. The final amount would be determined based on what the cost of the project is. To the extent there's excess, which I would expect, I would come back and deauthorize the money as we're doing tonight on the last agenda item.
So the Public Building Commission looked at this, right?
They did start looking at it at the last meeting.
Do they have a price? Because from what I've heard informally from them, they thought the price was quite expensive. Understandable that we have some, well, no money is free in the government, and we know that, but,
Right.
you know, with the and many people have commented on the price. The $500,000 for a wash bay, even to me, Mr. Non-Construction guy, seems outrageous, but what do we have a number from Public Building? I mean, that's kind of their expertise. They're all in the construction trades, and
They took it up for the first time at their last meeting. They don't have a specific number. The plans were not specific to scale plans and construction plans, so they discussed a potentially design build. So basically put it out to bid and have someone go from design through build, or separate out the formal design and the build and try to determine what is the best path. This just simply establishes an ordinance so that we would have the ability to move the bond premium in so that whatever the bills are, they could be paid, and then the bond premium could be moved to other sources at that point.
so we still don't have a cost then. I mean, we're just
Not a final cost. no.
using this $500,000. We may use it all. We may use half of it, or whatever we use.
Right.
Okay.
And then when the project's done, I would expect there would be excess,
Yes.
and it would just be deauthorized. So this is not actually bonding anything.
Right.
This is just authorizing. So we can do the accounting and pay the bill.
Yeah. That's fine, but so I just before I mean, it's going to sit now. Let's say. I mean, we're going to build it. We know we need it. We're going to get it. But when do we get in the? I don't know when we're getting the price on this. What is?
Can we get some bids? I
Yeah,
mean,
we know
Well,
that.
that will be the process. This is just
Coming, right?
lining up the financing. You would have to approve any bid, just like any other project.
It's still
bid.
coming. All right.
Yeah, that,
And Public Building is still going to have a estimate for us or some more information.
I'll bid it out and get the
Yeah,
final price
okay.
before we move forward.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Then
good.
again, it'll come back to the council for approval.
Yeah, that's good.
they'll
Okay.
determine based on the magnitude
Right.
whether they will manage the project or
Yes.
turn it over to facilities or someone else. So Public Building's ultimately going to make that determination.
Yeah. Right. Good. That's where it should be.
This mechanism will have the funds available.
Yes.
And it's ready to
That's
move
fine.
forward.
Yeah, I think that's fine, right? We all good
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take a motion.
If the money's there, they will spend it.
Charlie, we will
Yeah,
make sure that doesn't
Make
happen
sure
that
that
way.
really-
It's not going to
Say
happen.
no.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, I move to authorize the town manager to retain the services of Joseph Fazzi LLC to prepare bond authorization documents for bridge improvements, and authorize the town manager to schedule and advertise a public hearing to be held on February 18th, 2020 at 7 p.m. on an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Appropriating $500,000 for a Truck Wash Bay in 2020 and authorizing the issue of $500,000 in bonds to the town to meet said appropriation and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borings for such purpose."
Thank you. Second on that?
Second.
Through that one.
Second. All right, thank you. Any further comments or questions?
Forgive my ignorance,
Yes.
but
Yes.
if the money's already borrowed by the town, why do we have to authorize a bond?
It was never it was never part of an ordinance. So we went out to bond last June for a few projects, and we sought $6.5 million of borrowing. We were actually given $458,000 more than that. So there was no actual ordinance or appropriation of funds. They gave us money we didn't ask for. In exchange, we ended up with a lower interest rate.
What a deal. I never get that deal.
How's that?
So we're
does
going
that happen?
we're still going to hire Mr. Fozzie to apply for the money that we already got.
We're not applying for it. What you're basically doing is creating an ordinance that allows the cash we receive to be applied. It is truly an accounting
Fix.
legal exercise. This is not to go to the street. This is just simply to be able to use money we were given.
Okay.
Only in this world today. All right, so, okay, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, agenda item number 10 is something similar, is to have a town meeting to appropriate $2.6 million for our bridge improvements for next year.
This one and the next one kind of relate to one of the attachments that was attached to this one, which is an updated proposed capital plan. Early January, I'd come in and talk to you about the capital committee proposal. And in looking at the budget and looking at the general fund budget and the dollars that were there, two things overall that we're proposing to change to bring the impact to the general fund and therefore the mill rate residents down while completing necessary projects and also dealing with the logistical realities. The items in red are what have changed since the original proposal. The first one is originally we had looked at $2.5 million to work on the HVAC system at Willard. Logistically, it's not going to be possible for us to be able to finalize plans, go out to bid, and hire someone by the middle of June this year between now and that point. Contractors are getting booked up during the winter. So what we're proposing is to shift that funding and that project to next summer, where we'll have an opportunity to bring all 3 elementary schools to the PBC and review the project. This is a project that is likely going to cost somewhere between $6 and $9 million based on preliminary figures for all 3 schools. So it is a substantial price, and feel like it's prudent to pause, put it to PBC, and really vet out the entire cost of doing this project. With that, it creates an opportunity, if you will, to maintain our goal that we've had for the last few years, which is to borrow less money than we're retiring, just as an overall broad goal. That has allowed us to bring the debt level down and even bring the debt service level down. With that, this proposal would then shift 3 items that were in the original general fund proposal to bonding. So we would actually bond less than what I had come forward and proposed to you last month. We would shift the Kensington Road Bridge engineering work, the Glen Street construction. You just approved tonight the money for the engineering. This would be the construction of that bridge. And then road money. That you don't see the road money ordinance here because we already have bonding authority in place that we can leverage for that borrowing. By moving those 3 items off, it relieves more than $1.3 million from what would be the FY21 general fund budget. So it's a substantial reduction, giving relief to the taxpayers, still allowing to complete critical bridge projects, continue the 5-mile-a-year road strategy to continue improving roads in town, and would actually reduce the borrowing from the original proposal of 4.7 down to 4.35 million. And that would continue the downward trend on the overall debt level and debt service payments for the town. So with all that said, I give that as a backdrop because that's both this and the next agenda item tie into that. It's looking at those items that are on there that we propose to bond, which would be the bridge money and the fire vehicle money. And again, the road money there's already an ordinance with bonding authority out there.
Relief for the taxpayers. Wow. There's a unique term we don't hear much in any level of government. Okay. That sounds pretty good. Okay. Go ahead and take a motion on this.
Okay, I move to authorize the town manager to retain the services of Joseph Fozzie LLC to prepare bond authorization documents for bridge improvements and authorize the town manager to schedule and advertise for a public hearing on February 18th, 2020 at 7 p.m. on an ordinance entitled An Ordinance Appropriating $2,600,000 for bridge improvements in 2020 and authorizing the issue of $2,600,000 bonds to the town to meet said appropriation and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose.
I second.
Thank you.
Done.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
11.
Agenda item 11 is along the similar lines. At the bottom of that capital projects list, you have the fire engine that we would like to go the same route. Appropriation of $800,000.
Okay. Yep. We know we have to replace some, and this is next one in the line, I assume, that we need to do, right? We knew they're coming and we need them, so good, we're going to take care of it. Take a motion on this?
Okay, move to authorize the town manager to retain the services of Joseph Fozzie LLC to prepare bond authorization documents for bridge improvements and authorize the town manager to schedule and advertise for a public hearing also on February 18th, 2020 at 7 p.m. on an ordinance entitled An Ordinance Appropriating $800,000 for fire vehicles in 2020 and authorizing the issue of $800,000 in bonds to the town to meet said appropriation and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose.
Thank you. Second on that?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Agenda item number 12, you've heard about the work that needs to be done at Sage 1, and this is to have a town meeting, call a town meeting on the same day, February 18th, 2020, to approve unbudgeted appropriation of $90,000 from the general fund, $90,000, from the unassigned fund balance for Sage 1 improvements.
Okay, this is for the town meeting, okay. Yeah. Is there a plan? Do we have a plan for I know Sage 1, we're trying to fix it for everybody.
We did get results of the feasibility study.
Yeah.
This appropriation would actually fund hiring the consultant for the formal design,
Okay.
bidding, support, so not just the document, but being able to go through and vet the bidding, similar to what we did with Scalise Field, and construction management. So somebody on site, as we went through Scalise, it became quite evident the value of having somebody who does this all the time on site. And so this is actually to hire someone to do that. It's not the actual construction. We had an initial number, but given the magnitude of that number, the initial number we had from someone was $75,000. At that point, we now have to go out to bid and actually bid the construction management and design work. This is to put the funding forward, so when we hire that firm to do the work and manage it, we'll have the funds in place with a contingency against that number. Any money not spent on the design part would then roll into the construction phase.
Does this dovetail with the Parks and Rec study?
This is the result of the feasibility study. The feasibility study pegged the number. Originally, if you go back to the design, the same capital plan, you'll see at the bottom initially, the numbers I put out were $495,000 to $600,000 in that neighborhood. The initial feasibility study puts it on the higher end of that. So this money, including, to be fair, including the design and construction management, this would allow the funding of that and have someone, a project of that size. We want to make sure that there's someone on site working on that. But based on the feasibility study, I would say we're on the higher end of that range, closer to the 600,000.
Thanks. Did they ever figure out what they're going to do? They want to grass it, right? You know what they want to do?
Yeah.
There is a field committee meeting
Coming up, right?
next week, the 13th,
Next week. The 13th.
Next week?
to talk about that and to review.
Yeah, next,
Thursday at 6 o'clock, I believe, in the community center.
Right, I assume we grass it, we don't want, who uses it? Doesn't the Berlin Bears use that field, or who uses some?
They do.
They do use that field too, right?
There
They
is a
tear it up?
proposal
Yeah.
to not have them use it, and that was brought up to the Parks and Rec Commission, and that's to be discussed the 13th as well.
Okay. Then where are they gonna go, I guess, is the next problem, right?
The proposal that was discussed was the field inside the track at the high school. It's not used in the evenings.
Okay.
So portable lights coming in and using it there.
Oh, okay.
But that's part of the discussion is broadening it out for the council, members of the Board of Finance, because obviously this is a major expenditure. It's not the biggest thing we're going to spend, but $600,000 is still quite a bit of money.
If I may, it's really and truly to set the town meeting.
Yep.
Okay, so if that's what you want to concentrate on right now.
Yes.
And I understand the questions, but that's, should come later. All right, but this is just really to set the town meeting. And just a point is that it will be done at 7. Totally different than what's been done before.
Tell it 7, yeah. they're all
Okay,
set.
so instead of sitting around for 10 minutes, which we probably won't on this item, but it's for 7 PM, okay? You can change it if you want to, but this would be the town meeting. But your conversation should really be on the town meeting.
Okay,
Got it.
have a motion.
Okay. Move to call a
Hey, you're
town,
tough. Oh, you're brutal.
town
You're
meeting
brutal. You're killing
at
me.
7 PM on
Again,
February
eagle eye
18th.
from the, Corporation Council.
Whatever, it's all right.
Keeping us moving. Okay, I move to call a town meeting at 7 PM on February 18th, 2020, to approve an unbudgeted appropriation of $90,000 from the general fund, unassigned fund balance, to the Sage Field 1 improvements account in the general fund.
Second, thank you very much. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Great, thank you.
13.
And item number 13 is to discuss the proposed fee for the Timberland Golf Course. John Zuck is here to talk about it. Just some background. You heard from the gentleman from the commission. There was another set of fees that were recommended by the commission that's not here. Those fees, when
So we don't have those,
you don't have those because those fees, yeah, you have it
This one.
handed out.
Oh, the one you handed out, yes.
Those fees incorporated into the revenue and expenses created about a $76,000 annual loss. So the current ordinance requires us to submit something to you, revenues or fees, that will cover the expenses of Timberland Golf Course, and that's what John has recommended, and the finance director and I have looked at it, and that's what we're bringing forward to you.
Again, as Arosh was alluding to, the ordinance rates do meet the expenditures of the golf course. There are some rates in the ordinance rates that are definitely have gone up a considerable amount to meet the ordinance. But basically because of the ordinance, in order to meet the expenditures. Some of the rates are definitely higher. As Jim had handed out their proposed, or the voted on proposed rates from the commission.
Just as background, in the last page of the document, you have Timberland's new rates that is compared to Stanley, Rockledge, Hunter, Simsbury Farms, and Keeney, and they are the older rates because we don't have the new rates for the other courses. It's not published anywhere. So you just get I would assume they'll go somewhat higher, but you'll just get an idea of where the new rates would be compared to the older rates of the other.
If you are looking at the course comparison, again, those are the proposed ordinance 2020 rates. And again, all the other golf courses are from 2019 season. So the Stanley and Keeney, that's from last year? Rates last year. All those rates are from last year, that's correct.
So what do we do with this? I mean, I certainly have heard the Golf Commission. I know we talked about it at the Ordinance Committee.
We can't submit to you
Yeah.
rates that will not cover expenses.
Right. Per the ordinance.
The ordinance, yeah, the current ordinance,
Do we need to vote on this tonight?
well.
Is there any urgency?
You have to get the rates out.
How can we? Wouldn't we violate our own ordinance?
No, these rates.
Please don't.
Oh,
But I mean, do we have to vote tonight, or can we, what's the deadline to vote?
We could probably push it off for one meeting, and that would be very.
Because these rates go into effect in
Yeah,
March, whenever the
right.
course opens, right?
In March?
Right, but it's not July 1.
Jim, I need you on mic.
Don't mess with Kate. You gotta.
Sorry. Jim Norton again, Golf Commission. The reason we need to get this going is leagues are already contacting Mark
Yeah.
for rates going forward. Events, outings are starting to contact Mark right now for prices because they're shopping around also. As I said earlier, I mean, we are getting to the point where we're pricing ourselves out of the market. We will present options to the council
forward.
to move forward, but that will be for not for this this golf season, if you will, which is a calendar year, but for what we're proposing to go into effect in the future. And as I said, we'd like to sit with the council and have a very candid discussion about the golf course and rates and looking 5 years down the road.
What you're gonna do?
Believe me, I've already run the number.
Be on the agenda.
We've sat down with Kevin and Arosha.
Oh, yeah.
We're all on the same page. We all, and we want what's best for the town. That's how we're looking at things.
So you're okay with this?
No, they're not.
No, not with John, with the numbers that he's presenting, no.
No.
Matter of fact, I firmly believe that the loss will be greater if we don't, because people are just going to go elsewhere. That's just that's the bottom line.
All right. If you don't, we don't what?
If we take the
New rates.
the ordinance rate, ordinance rates,
Loss will be greater.
the loss will be, yes, there's no doubt. People will go elsewhere.
Yeah, we can't, so we really can't tonight violate our ordinance, obviously. I don't think. Would probably be a bad precedent to set.
saying.
Never good. But if we could wait 2 weeks and have another ordinance committee meeting, change the ordinance if we desire to, in time.
Okay, so.
I know there's a time frame. I know there's public hearings. I know the whole thing.
Yes. So what it would be is you would have to perhaps put something on the next council agenda, set it in a public hearing
Okay.
to amend the ordinance.
Okay.
Then that first meeting in March, you can then decide to amend the ordinance.
Right.
But it's very tight.
It's tight, but it's doable? Is it doable? Yes, no?
Doable, but we still haven't seen the recommendation from the Golf Commission to decide what you want to do.
Well, I mean, we
Get
see
those
what their
things
rates
first.
are. We have
No,
the
it's not just the rates.
I know, it's the whole
You're
thing.
looking at a bigger picture here.
bigger picture.
That's what you want to present. So you don't have that.
Well, we could have it at the ordinance committee.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we could, just for this year, get by, so to speak. And, I don't want to see a bigger loss. I don't know. I mean, I just think it warrants more discussion than just vote on it because the ordinance says to, that's great, but.
We're at your disposal there.
Yeah, so why don't we see if we could have just another discussion at an ordinance committee? Huh?
Another schedule.
Yeah, an ordinance committee. So when will we need to have that meeting? Next week?
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow. Okay, well, tomorrow it is.
Yes, I would suggest the sooner the better for
Okay.
the ordinance committee.
Okay,
Because I have to put together the agenda, as you know, next
Yeah.
week or the following week. And that would be only to set a public hearing,
Yeah.
but also you want to know what you're going to be talking about and
uh,
that whole bit. So it would be the meeting in March.
Yeah.
But then also, I don't know if it would be Attorney D'Onofrio or, if Jennifer is going to do it, but we have to then get the language to amend the ordinance.
So what are we thinking?
Kevin raises.
Kevin has a question.
Yes, yeah, yes, yeah. Sorry, I didn't see him.
I just wanted to make one
Yeah.
point. If you don't adopt, whatever fees you adopt, or if you don't adopt, the existing fees would remain in place.
Yes.
Those would then play into the budget submission that has to be done for March 1st.
Understand.
So if there is a gap, that would by default represent an increase in the mill rate. You would be spreading that to every taxpayer in town. Now, that's obviously the town manager's submission. That's not the adopted budget. But to the extent the fees don't cover the cost, it means that those costs would have to be covered by everybody in the mill rate. And that would be how the budget would be presented. So that is a short-term implication. The council would not have the authority to then turn around and increase the revenue. You would have the opportunity to reject and work with the Board of Finance, but this is kind of your window to be able to affect the rates that would then feed the revenue. Once we get to that point, the budget's submitted, and then it would be to the Board of Finance to actually make any adjustments from there. Just wanted to put that point out as another
It's a good point.
implication in the next month.
Good point. I still think we should discuss it at the ordinance committee before we make a decision tonight. I mean, we may not change it, I don't know. We may or may not change it, but it's worth just some additional discussion. So, when would what's the, Thursday night, I guess? Hate to do that, but. Next Tuesday night? Is that too late? When can people on the ordinance committee make it? That's another question we need to answer.
Is that what you're trying to schedule next
Yeah.
Tuesday?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do it.
Can you do next Tuesday?
Yeah, I can.
Tuesday?
Yeah.
Tuesday? Brendan?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, what time, 6:30?
Fine.
6:30? Tuesday,
The 11th.
the 11th.
So what will be on the agenda?
The golf ordinance. Discussion on the golf ordinance.
But you need some proposals, recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, we want to hear from the golf commission on the rates. We're mainly talking about the rates right now. I know we're looking at an exhaustive review of the golf course. That's really not for that. I mean, we could hear a thumbnail sketch of some proposals you guys are working on. That's fine, just so we have it. But obviously we have to make a decision on this.
The ordinance change would be to not hold them to a break-even
Right.
structure.
Yes.
And then the actual fees would be voted on by the council.
Yes. It'll come back to the council for the vote on what we.
To set the fees.
Correct.
So all the ordinance committee is really going to be looking at is
The ordinance.
to change the language in the
Right.
ordinance.
Right.
Am I making sense?
Yes. Yes.
Could I ask a question?
Yes. Yes.
The meeting for this coming Tuesday night
Yes.
would be similar to a council meeting then to discuss the rates, or would that be an ordinance committee?
It's really just the ordinance committee to talk about
Amending.
amending the ordinance.
Okay.
I still am stuck, and I thought when we had this when we, Kevin, we had this discussion about, what did we take out of the, didn't we take something out of their budget? I thought that was supposed to fix it.
Yeah, so, Jonathan, why don't you tell what happened?
From the meetings that Kevin and I had, it was originally in-kind services and also the capital was not included. So the capital actually got included, in-kind services did not get included in our budget.
I thought weren't we taking the capital out, which was going to
Yeah.
save them from meeting the, Kevin, you just got to come up again.
No.
Sorry.
Sit next to me if you want.
I'm sorry. So, because I thought that was the fix that we had talked about,
There's
right?
no capital in their budget this year.
Okay. There's no
So
capital.
if there's capital in the budget, it could have an impact, but in this year's case, if
There
you
isn't
look
any.
at that list
Yeah,
of
okay.
proposed capital, there's nothing for the golf course.
Okay. Okay. The rates still have to go up. Okay, all right, well, everything. Huh?
Yeah,
All right, right? Yeah, right? We did that, right? Yeah, okay. Okay,
Okay, no action.
all right, so, yeah, well, no action on that. We'll wait till the following council meeting on that. Okay, where are we at now? 14? Oh, no. Oh,
Item number 14 is the 2020 fee schedule. for the-
another fee schedule. Oh, how
for
nice.
The rest of the town,
Yes, okay.
all the different fees that we charge for services.
Lots of fees.
These don't include the golf course, right?
No, we don't.
Well, 'cause sometimes they're in there, yeah.
Separate, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Back.
you're on. You're on again.
So there is a summary chart. There aren't a lot of changes, especially without the golf course. There's a couple clarifying elements, a couple of items. They're all highlighted on the chart. One from the library about clarifying adult overdue fines, just making it specific of who qualifies, as well as a reduction in the accident photograph fee in the police department. Parks and Rec is the area, typically the golf course and Parks and Rec have the most changes in terms of numbers. The fees went up typically about $5 in Parks and Rec, which is pretty standard year to year. And then the cell tower rental by contract goes up 3%, and this is the tower that's in the back behind Town Hall. The other two pieces I'll bring up. First is the Regional Health District has purview over their own fees, so part of the request in the motion is if they reset their fees during the year, I would just update the fee schedule, and you're basically proving that I can make the change if they choose to change it. We don't set their fees. And the only thing I want to bring up, it's not something that has to be decided tonight by any means. With the change in the minimum wage law, which affects the golf course, Parks and Rec, to a lesser extent, but still grounds, between now and the next 5 years, you're going to be looking at a 50% increase in the cost. In some of these places, you could be looking at $20,000 or $30,000 year over year, which doesn't sound like very much. But if you're increasing fees that account to a couple of $1,000s, what you're essentially doing is passing that on to the mill rate and all taxpayers. So something to consider. Again, this year it's not catastrophic. You went from 1010 to, we're going to be at 1250 or 12, sorry. But as we go out another couple of years, I think it's something that really has to be considered. And in the context of, the Golf Commission, in the context of the Parks and Rec Commission, you're obviously inheriting fees that they've reviewed and they've considered, but it does have an impact on the overall budget and the dollars. So I just want to bring that up. It's something I think has to be really thought about as we go through. The only other thing I would say is for approving the fee schedule, I would just ask, I'm not sure the exact process, but I guess this probably has to be, the motion would have to be amended to say excluding the golf course or something to that effect.
Current fees. It can be where, Brendan, if you're okay with it, is to say that, and to allow the amendments to the 2020 fee schedules to include the updated regional health district and golf course rates
Exclude.
when they are approved.
Got it.
Is that,
Because this fee schedule includes all of the golf as well. The new one.
As long as it's made clear that these rates that are in the document are not approved for Timberland.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and take a motion.
Okay,
Questions?
I move to adopt the 2020 fee schedule as proposed by the Revenue Committee and to allow amendments to the 2020 fee schedule and to include updated regional health district fees and the Timberland golf course rates when they are approved.
Thank you. Second on that?
Second.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
So agenda item number 15 is a cleanup item.
Kevin, you're still here.
Yeah, that's his last one.
This is a good one.
Oh, good.
This
No,
is
we
what
need-
I talked about earlier.
Need a good one.
To the extent that you authorize debt for projects and the actual cost of the project comes in less than expected, and therefore we borrowed less money. We have two that are on here. One actually goes back a ways. We did zip a deli. We actually transferred money that was left over from the Sherwood Mill project to do this. We never actually bonded anything, and that's why there's a slight difference, because we moved bond money from one project to another. But at this point, it's just deauthorizing that. And then the I&I project for Belcher Brook came in actually substantially under budget, which is a positive thing, certainly environmentally, but also financially. So it's asking you to take away the authorization that you had provided, and we take those off the books.
No-brainer.
Wow, right, a no-brainer. Okay.
Spend money.
Positive no-brainer, okay.
Didn't spend it, Charlie.
Unspent.
Okay. Take a motion.
Okay, I move to approve the resolution making certain findings with respect to completed capital projects and repealing remaining authorized but unissued debt and expenditure authority for such projects.
Second on that?
I second it.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Where are we at now? Where are we at?
Okay.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everybody.
Night.
Okay, what do we have? We got our appointments.
Any?
Is that where we're at?
Yeah.
Appointments. So, let's just, do Dave. Yeah, if you want, sure. Yeah. We'll make a motion on economic development.
Okay, EDC, spot number 1, I'll nominate Bob Sisti.
Okay.
You're making the nomination for Bob Sisti for number 8?
Yes, right? Yes.
Okay. Any other nominations for that spot? Hearing none, I'm close nominations. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye. No.
Okay, second one.
Okay, number 9, I will nominate Dave Sear.
Thank you very much. Any other nominations for that spot? Hearing none, close the nominations for that spot. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're going to hold off on the other one because the other guy, I just want to, couple
Why are
others.
we holding off? Because I wanted to make a nomination this evening.
I wanted to hold off on the new application we got because I wanted to talk to the chairman and see what who that is and what
What do you mean?
the new, we got the new one was just handed to us tonight, right? What's Chase? Is it? Is it Chase? Right?
Well, I mean, I was going to nominate Richard Price,
Yep.
who I think is an excellent candidate. He's qualified. He served on the Public Building Commission for 8 years. Board of Ed, he's a 25-year resident. So, I mean, I know the other guy's a business owner in town, but I would like to nominate Rich tonight.
Okay. Okay, any other nominations?
Sure, I will nominate J. Richard Chase, if that's how you pronounce his name.
Okay. 2 nominations.
We have that
Huh?
application?
Chase?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, should have been,
It was
I
given to you, yeah, tonight.
think they gave it to us tonight, right?
He hasn't,
I emailed it to you, but
in my mind, not
you got it in,
qualified as Rich by any means.
So we can take the vote on Price, Mr. Price first?
you wanted just to roll call?
Yes.
Yeah, we can do a roll call, yeah.
Okay. Councilor Joe Kostetson?
Yeah, aye, on Richard.
Right. Councilor Luddy?
Mr. Chase? Chasey?
Councilor Payanessa?
Mr. Chase?
Councilor Rosso?
Bryce.
Councilor Iwanaga?
Mr. Price.
Councilor Veach?
Mr. Chase.
Mayor?
Mr. Chase? All right,
We got one.
and what else we got? Is that it?
He has
I'm
no,
curious to know why, Mr. Chase. Do you all know him personally, and
Heard about him,
you've heard about him?
heard good things. Yes,
Okay.
business owner in town for many years, very business friendly, economic development, that would be a good thing.
this is it.
Why Mr. Price? Same, I could ask you the
Like I
same
said,
question.
Yeah, absolutely. I said
Okay, well, so,
he's 25-year resident,
Yep.
Public Building Commission, Board of Education.
Difference of opinion, I guess that's what happens up here, right, sometimes?
Okay.
Okay. Any others, right? No, that's it, right?
If you would like to consider me for,
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Oh, my God, I'm sorry, Kate. Oh, my God. The arrows were coming at me. I said, what did I do wrong? Yes, no, yeah. I'm sorry about that. I was looking through. I knew there was another one somewhere. I don't see it. What happened to it? I saw it. Yeah, no, I saw, where is it? I don't see
For the
it.
Central Regional Tourism
Yes, I
District,
know.
I'll nominate Kate Wall.
Yes. Yes. Okay, any other nominations for that position? Hearing none? Nominations are closed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, congratulations.
thank you.
So you're making us the #1 tourist attraction?
I'm going to try.
Central Connecticut?
Absolutely.
Good. Okay, so, sorry, Kate, I'm sorry. I knew there was another one.
Say something.
I knew there was another one. I just couldn't, I don't know what I did with it. I had it.
For the other one.
So,
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. All right, well, we're good. We got to it. All right, so town manager report?
Yeah, so I'll make this
Still don't see it.
quick. I send a handout just to give you some
Found it, Kate.
guidance on the budget process and some parameters. The first one is important calendar date. It's on our website, but a couple of new members here. I just want to make sure I put it out there in terms of when budgets are due and when we are going to meet, and Board of Finance and Board of Education and the town meetings. So take a look at it. Again, if you go on the town website, on the finance page, all these things are there.
That's great, thank you. That's great.
So I also gave just a breakout of at the high level, revenues and expenses of our $90 million budget, so that you have a sense of, what the major categories are. So if you just look at it, it's a $90 million operation, about 29.3 or 32% of that is what I call town operations, which includes, public safety as well, which is about 10%. And then if you add all of the other stuff at the bottom that has the, what we use for the common for the schools that the town pays and the capital and debt and pension and all of that, that entire piece is fairly close to about half of what we spend. And then the Board of Ed is the other half. Just have a sort of a big picture idea. What I did, I included something I thought was very interesting, at least to me, when I looked at the staffing levels for the last 10 years or so. It's a 2-pager. These are all publicly available in the financial statements. But if you look at it, in general, if you look at the town, including the police department, the numbers are relatively, actually been down, about 3.5 FTEs. But when you look at the Board of Ed, it's about a 34 FTEs up in the 10-year period. So just to give you some context, I'm not saying what is right or wrong. It's just the way it is, just the facts, right? I wanted to give you a sense of, in the back, take a look at this. When I looked at the town, I found this very interesting, what I call the Connecticut Economic Resource Center. Has a lot of information on the demographics and economics and education and mill rates. It's a good way to get an idea of where the town is. I found that to be very helpful. Again, this is available publicly. Just want to give you a sense of the debt service. I think this is a good number. Beginning this year, again, this debt does not include the enterprise fund, which is another $2.5 million or so, because it's sort of a separate fund by itself, doesn't fall into the town categories. The actual outstanding debt amount goes down when you look at the next 5 years, including the debt service. So reduction from year to year, it's a good amount. 719 the first year, $500,000 the next year. So, and going beyond 2025-26, it falls even sharply.
Really?
A lot.
Good.
So, which is good, which means we had to sort of get through the next few years. Now, this is providing we don't go and borrow a lot of new money, right? But it's a good story because most of the debt is related to the high school project, and it begins to come down in 25 or so. You all know this, the current mill rate. I just want to give you a sense. It's about a 2.3 million. So, 1% increase in the overall budget on a $90 million budget is about 906,000. So when you get budget reports, I try to tell people, like 2.5% of an increase will be one mill rate, just to give you a sense, right? So generally, if you look at the inflation now, it's hovering around 2.2. I understand there are a lot of contractual agreements and other things that are coming a little bit higher than the 2.2. But when you get the budget from the town and the Board of Ed to give you a framework to work with, and I'll talk to the Board of Finance as well, that, 1 mill rate, if nothing changes, it's about 2.3 million. So the good news is the preliminary numbers are out with our grand list. It's up about 1%.
1%.
So it translates in the mill terms about 1,400,000 or so. Right? So it's pretty good. So if you do nothing, there's additional 1.4 if everything being equal.
Okay.
So there's some play there between that and the request coming in. And so I think what I would like you to do is to think about, we have this joint meeting coming up February 18th. It's actually, I spoke to the chair of the Board of Finance. It's your opportunity to come and tell them your goals, what you like to see in the budget process, and they'll have questions of clarification. This is not a place to go back and forth. It's mostly for the council to tell what they would like to see in the budget, big picture goals, and then it'll also give me a sense of how I submit the town manager's budget, because I've already received the departmental request, and have to do some work to get it to a number that it's not unreasonable what they're asking, but we got to work with something that is palatable to everyone. And hence what Kevin shared with you, the capital list too. The initial capital list, to give you a sense, the committee, the departments came in at almost $7 million. The committee narrowed it down to 2.3. The town manager right now, it's at 881. So, and if you look at this, there are a lot of things that we need to address, but we can't do everything once, so just have to prioritize and try to stagger them during multiple years, and some of them we move to a bonding. So at least having a town hall meeting for the
Other budget list we had, right?
So anything else you need, let me know.
This is wonderful, Arosh. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is
One thing I failed to include, but we have on our balance sheet about the pension obligation is about $7.3 million, and there's an actually determined amount that we recommended that we cover, that it's about $1.7 million a year. So to put all that in the packet, and what I'll try to do this year is not to wait till these deadlines. As soon as we have things, I'll share with the council at the same time so that you will have all the information beforehand.
Thank you.
So, and again, just reach out to me if you need additional information. I'll be happy to get anything to you. Most of the stuff is available, and happy to work with you the next couple of months so that everybody's informed by the time you get to the final budget meetings. People just scare me about the budget meetings. People tell me things about the budget meetings that, you're not, I have to go through the budget cycle to really get
The full flavor?
full flavor of the town, so I don't think so.
No?
It's just, good stuff here. And I mentioned this before, right? I mean, the town is in a good position. You got a AAA rating, you have, financially stable, managing things well, and, like anything else, you got all needs are there, roads and bridges and other things, but it's far better than a lot of other towns. So you already know this. I'm just coming from outside, and I think it's good to see that. Couple of other things, I don't want to keep you that long since we have a fairly long meeting. Next week, the police commission will be meeting. I talked about the police renovations. They will have a statement of need that they will send me, which I will hopefully include it in the next meeting for the renovations, and then you would forward it to the Public Building Commission. Good. So that they can, because it'll be over $1 million the way I see it, the project, so that would help in some fashion. I think that's about it.
It's good.
I don't think I have anything else I want to share with you. I had quite a few, but I'll just, considering how the rest of the meeting went with all the public sessions, I think we are fine. We have a ribbon cutting tomorrow. All of you know this, Barrel and Wine at 4:45, so if you can make it, that'll be good. Been doing quite a few ribbon cuttings the last week or so. We had the 7 Moons and the Exelon, which is a good event.
Yeah, it was good. 7 Moons, excellent. New restaurant. All great. Okay, so thank you for that. Good stuff. Special committee reports. We did have the ordinance committee meeting. We talked about 2 things. We talked about as we heard tonight, we talked about the golf committee, and we talked about the leash law. So we're going to have another ordinance committee Tuesday, and we're probably just going to maybe just focus on the golf committee to get that done, figure out what we want to do with that, ordinance for that. And the leash law, you just put that on there too? Just so, can you put the leash, just put that on there just so we can have a little bit more discussion on that. And that should be pretty quick. So that's that one with fields committees coming up. I don't think there's been another one, another special committee, right? No. So that's it for special committees right now, right? Okay, so Council Communications.
I have something real quick, Roche. A couple meetings ago, we had a parent come here to tell us that there was a problem at the high school with bathrooms being closed. I think the issue was resolved for a little bit, but this parent called me to say that the same situation is happening. And besides the vaping that's not supposed to be going on and other things possibly that he told me that he was told by school officials that there's vandalism going on. And that's the reason why the bathrooms are closed. So his concern, if that's the case, if any reports have been filed to try and find out who the perpetrators were. Because I think that is a concern. We spent all this money, the kids can't use the bathrooms. And I think with all the cameras we put in there, if there was a report found, that somebody should be able to find out the timing of such incidences. And I'm not saying our kids are doing it. Could be a public event where someone's going in there, if that's the case. And I was just bringing it to your attention to see if anybody's...
Why isn't that individual not calling the superintendent? I mean, it's not really the council's purview. It's
they told me that they called the school and people were not in. They were not. He wasn't getting a response.
So the last time I did bring it up with the superintendent, and I think he addressed it, but I'm hearing now it's sort of gone.
School facility board of ed has statutory responsibility for it.
Absolutely.
That's a good point. I don't know if he's gone to the board of ed.
Well, that's who we should be talking to.
Well, I think he came here last time and said he didn't feel like he got action from the Board of Ed. I think that's why he came here, and apparently maybe he's coming here. I don't know, but maybe he's coming again because he's not getting action. I don't know, but, I mean, if we can't solve the bathroom problem, it seems like we can't solve anything. It can't be that difficult. I mean, if he's that concerned, then why? I agree. Why would he come here? Is he not getting action from, did he say anything about it?
I didn't ask that question. It was a good question. I didn't think of it.
That's why he came here last time. So it's disturbing. But I agreed, it's a Board of Ed issue, but...
I'll be happy to
You reach out to the
Brian
Board of
again
Ed,
tomorrow.
maybe, to reach out to this gentleman. I mean, I don't know.
People have the right to talk to us too, obviously, no matter who's, and we try and direct them to the right place. That's fine, but, if we can get
You want
an answer.
to send me the information, I'll forward it to Brian, the name and contact information of the person.
Sure.
Because I can speak to the superintendent, but I can't take any action about,
Oh, yeah, no.
I'll just follow up on it.
Yeah, right.
I think just,
Oh, that's a good point. I just didn't think of that, so.
yeah, I mean, if
Get that
we
message.
know just some information, because people are gonna, they come up to us, most people don't make a distinction between the Board of Ed and the council. They think it's all the same, right? That's just what happens, so.
Yeah.
If we can answer them and say, look, go to the board, I'm always tell people, that's a Board of Ed issue. But I know this, I know X, Y, Z, a little bit of information. I know this, but the Board of Ed has the purview,
Yeah, well,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, moving forward, I think if
Yeah.
any one of us gets a call like that, that's what we do, is we direct them to the Board of Ed, we direct them to central office,
Right.
and have it taken up there.
Right.
Will do.
Okay. Anything else? Counselor comments? We're good? Acceptance of minutes, January 21st.
Okay, I make a motion to accept the special town meeting minutes from January 21st.
I second.
All right, thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Is there?
Opposed? Motion carries.
And a motion to accept the town council meeting minutes from Tuesday, January 22nd. 21st, sorry.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Good night.